Nepad Spanish Fund for Africa, empowerment for the woman gender. Nepad Spanish Fund for Africa, the African woman is rising. The sun is rising, the people are smiling, it's a new day. The women are singing, it's a new day. Oh, 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 women empowerment, development, stability, Nepad Spanish Fund for Africa. African women are rising. African women are rising. Africa,
The long-term growth of Africa requires an environment where women can reach their full potential in order to fully contribute to the development of the continent. Despite significant achievement in Africa towards gender equality in terms of declarations and elaboration of legal frameworks, there still requires a lot to be done towards implementation, solutions, and action towards mainstreaming a critical mass of women in all sectors to ensure women's rights and empowerment, as well as their access to modern technologies, land, capital, and inputs to improve the well-being of African women.
We must take stock of the progress and setbacks on the road towards a full and equal share for women in economic, social, cultural, and political decision-making, to chart a platform for action that will ensure that we remove all obstacles to women's active participation in all spheres of public and private life. Let me say that Africa should be proud of the progress, but it should also be mindful of the challenges that lie ahead. This has become a clarion call for women and gender activists and for governments everywhere. It informed the AU's solemn declaration on gender equality and the African Decade for Women.
In order to ensure that there are additional resources to support development projects that are addressing gender concerns in Africa, the new Partnership for Africa's Development, NEPAD, with the goodwill of the Spanish Corporation, established the Nepad Spanish Fund for African Women's Empowerment. The decision to create this fund emanates from the fundamental understanding that gender concerns and women's empowerment objectives must form an integral part of the development agenda if stakeholders are to make significant strides towards equitable and sustainable economic development.
We are determined as the Nepad agency to make sure that all our actions in all our sectors reflect what we think about women's empowerment. And this is the beauty of what we did. We allowed women to conquer power in order to demonstrate that when women have that power, transformation effectively takes place.
Para ello hemos trabajado junto con Nepad en la política de género, siguiendo las indicaciones de la Convención de Maputo, en la que y también las indicaciones de la década para el empoderamiento de la mujer en África 2010-2020, de tal manera que en todos nuestros programas de cooperación se incluya esta política.
Since its inception, over 504,342 women have been impacted by the Nepad Spanish Fund. A sum of €20 million was invested in the financial and technical support to 77 projects across 35 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, including 9 multi-country projects, leading to a number of new women-owned businesses having been established. This fund saw the empowerment of African women in areas such as vocational training, agriculture, information and communication technology, business, microfinance, women entrepreneurship, and employment, amongst others.
The mechanism for the intervention of the fund is twofold, through technical support and financial support. During the first call in 2008, 46 projects were implemented from 28 countries for an amount of 6,285,000. During the second call for proposals that has been launched, 31 projects was implemented in 30 countries for an amount of €8,400,000.
The work of the Nepad Spanish Fund was structured around three main thematic sectors in order to maximize the impact of the investment towards empowering women on the continent. The thematic sectors covered are economic empowerment, civil society strengthening, and institutional strengthening. In addition, the fund has provided support for projects in the areas of environmental management, including access to water, assisting vulnerable households in post-conflict African countries, as well as access to health. Civil society strengthening is one of the most fundamental prerequisites for empowering women in all spheres of life to participate in networking and outreach in order to improve on their welfare, general well-being, and livelihoods. Gender-based violence is a subtle but persistent problem in Africa. There is therefore an urgent need to reduce the incidence of gender-based violence on the continent. As a result, the Nepad Spanish Fund supported civil society organizations and grassroots organizations across Africa working towards the eradication of violence against women and providing support for such victims. The fund enabled Equality Now, an African NGO based in Kenya, to form coalition with NGOs across Africa to address gender-based violence issues faced by adolescent girls. Gas Mali is working a guarantee fund for women traders in the Frisch Road between Mali and Burkina Faso that will provide for the care of reported cases of gender-based violence. The fund enabled Teen Challenge in Cape Town, South Africa, to support young women involved in drug use and abusive situations through counseling and skills development to enable them to reintegrate into society. The results of the project implementation include 600 women receiving community substance abuse skills training. School counseling as well as life skills programs were conducted at 12 high schools in the communities.
For me, before, how can I say it? The years I was trapped in drugs, that was the most painful years of my life. Because my father used to abuse me and I was staying on the streets and I don't have places to go or people because I was kicked out of my mother's house because of my drug habit. And I came to Teen Challenge where I found Pastor and his wife and they opened a door to me. And today I'm sitting here, more than an overcomer, and I can help other young women.
Before I came to Teen Challenge, it was dark. I used drugs, everything. There was a friend of mine that always wanted to sell me to men like a prostitute. Today I realized my future is at Teen Challenge because today I'm sitting here in a training to better my education.
We are very grateful for Teen Challenge and Nepad Spanish Fund.
Life for the women of Mbekweni is rife with challenges such as unemployment, financial dependence, and alcoholism. There are also cultural and customary dictates which all have the effect of elevating the levels of gender-based violence in this patriarchal society. The fund enabled the South African Medical Research Council to conduct research and implement findings into gender-based violence, which resulted in the creation of and capacity building of 6 groups, including a men's group, to proactively engage within their communities and advocate against gender-based violence.
Siphetheke kanjani kodwa singayiqondi le ntuba siyahlukumeza sisithi yinto esisithethe nemele mayenzeke empilweni yabantu abamnyama bafika ke bona basibonisa uba le nto isuka kude futhi ayiqali namhlanje zingqambu zomthi ifana nengqambu zomthi.
This project was initiated to unearth and tap into the potential of black communities to solve their own problems and to develop and disseminate new knowledge about how research institutions, funding institutions such as the Nepad Spanish Fund can work with communities as co-producers of knowledge rather than mere beneficiaries.
The Nepad Spanish Fund provided support for initiatives that engage and increase the participation of women and women's associations in civil society in order to reinforce social cohesion, empowerment, and women's representation in the different power spaces. Gender Links in Namibia is implementing a project in terms of which outreach has exceeded 300,000 people, including 51 community leaders, and is set to grow through the development of centers of excellence. Sifema in Mali has trained 270 women on leadership skills, 240 in ICT, and 160 women on gender awareness. Lead Africa Development Institute undertook a project in which 1,000 women from Mozambique, South Africa, Swaziland, and Zimbabwe were empowered through strengthening local economic development and sustainable livelihoods. The Nepad Spanish Fund strengthened the capacity of 92 civil society organizations that address weaknesses of grassroots women's organizations for awareness raising and building a critical mass of supporters for the gender agenda. In terms of which, over 359,000 women were capacitated. In Nigeria, Credan had successfully built the capacity of 92 civil society organizations, 310 traditional community and religious leaders, and a total of 118,415 females, including 850 women leaders, benefited from the training, seminars, and group and individual activities, with 82% of the direct beneficiaries presently making informed decisions at the community level. The governor of Gombe State appointed 105 women leaders as special advisors and assistants in the 11 local government areas of the state as a result of the advocacy visit by women leaders that participated in the capacity building project. The Nepad Spanish Fund provided support for women associations and networks that are advocating for law and policy reform on gender equality and their implementation.
Après 2 ans de mise en œuvre, Endapronat vient de clôturer son projet Nepad axé sur l'autonomisation des femmes. Le projet articulé autour du foncier et de l'économie a agi dans les zones des Niayes et du fleuve du Sénégal.
C'est un projet qui avait 2 volets, un volet autour du foncier et un volet économique. Et donc autour du foncier, on avait justement toutes ces sensibilisations autour d'une meilleure connaissance des procédures par rapport à la sécurisation foncière. Le projet est intervenu dans la zone du fleuve, mais aussi dans la zone de Koussana, dans la zone de Tamba. Il y avait un objectif autour de demande d'affectation des terres.
Cette initiative, de façon globale, vient en renfort aux efforts des gouvernements respectifs pour l'autonomisation des femmes et est en droite ligne des orientations et des actions qui sont aujourd'hui menées par le gouvernement du Sénégal.
Durant l'exécution du projet, les groupements de femmes ciblées ont pu élaborer des propositions qui ont été soumises à la commission en charge de la réforme foncière en vue d'une prise en compte de leurs préoccupations.
REPOW is implementing a regional project involving ECOWAS countries to influence the policies and frameworks in these countries to take into account women's concerns by assisting several women's groups to create official national networks. The Nepad Spanish Fund supported several projects geared towards economic empowerment of women. 13,268 women have benefited from increased access to agricultural tools, finance, and agricultural extension services. For example, the fund has enabled the Sudan Peace and Education Program to promote food security and sustainable livelihoods amongst poor households in Morobo and Magui counties in South Sudan. 1,200 women benefited from capacity building in modern techniques for subsistence farming and water harvesting. The fund also enabled the completion of 2 market sheds, thereby increasing market access for about 62 women farmers. The fund has developed a seed bank in Cameroon to enable widespread cultivation of eru, a vegetable that is on the brink of extinction, with over 280 women being trained. Financial resources from the Spanish Fund through the Rwandese Association of Ecologists presented the opportunity for women in a Rwandese community to learn about environmental management and engage in ecological activities in forest management. The Nepad Spanish Fund enabled national platforms multifunctionals in Senegal to establish 5 viable food processing platforms that have achieved between 70 and 100% success rates respectively. The project has received several commendations from traditional rulers, local women groups, and community members.
wax dëgg waa plateforme ñëw jàppale ñu dimbale ñu ba ñu ñëw fii booba sonn nañ booba jigéen ñi sonn nañ booba xale yi sonn nañ booba suñ borom kër yi sonn nañ ndax booba taluñu sangu taluñu defaru taluñu dara waaw taluñu dara waaye plateforme ba mu fi duggee ba tey moom am nañ jàmm gis ngeen ni ñu rafetee
Voilà ce que les fonds espagnols Nepad ont vraiment apporté comme mieux-être au niveau de nos entreprises de transformation agroalimentaire. Parce que nous avions des ressources, certes, pour la formation, une certaine partie de la formation, pour créer des bâtiments, mais nous étions à la recherche de ressources additionnelles pour le financement des équipements. Et voilà ce que le Nepad a fait, en nous permettant d'acquérir ces équipements, en nous permettant d'acquérir les moyens logistiques de transport, donc c'est ici, en nous permettant d'assurer une partie aussi de la formation.
The Nepad Spanish Fund has also supported several projects geared towards transforming women groups into cooperatives towards ultimately seeing an improvement in their livelihoods and increasing their incomes. In Rwanda, the fund worked with the Ministry of Trade and Industry to formally organize and register 25 women cooperatives. The fund also supported the promotion of national agricultural products and the official regularization of the existing cooperatives, as well as their enhancement in 3 rural districts with 736 women beneficiaries. In Senegal, the Nepad Spanish Fund supported the cooperative Panal, comprising 50 women SMEs involving 2,500 women that mobilized in the agro-allied sector to collectively undertake food processing and marketing of cereals and fruits under a common brand. Here, the fund provided resources for the development of a food processing plant, warehousing facilities, and retail outlets.
Nous vendons beaucoup de produits locaux, des produits locaux transformés par nos membres, par nos entreprises. D'être à l'origine du développement des femmes qui travaillaient en sourdine et qui étaient dans l'informel. Grâce à Nepad, nous nous sommes formalisés et on nous a connus partout dans le monde. Nous avons même participé aux foires nationales et internationales.
The Nepad Spanish Fund has contributed towards capacity building within communities, civil society institutions, and government institutions for the development of over 20,000 women entrepreneurs. In conjunction with ASMADE in Burkina Faso, 5 tools for micro-enterprise management were developed and shared with the project beneficiaries. As a result of the capacity building activities, 45 micro-enterprises from the Association of Informal Catering Services were recognized by competent institutions to promote their trading activities and facilitate their access to financial institutions.
En travaillant, on ne savait pas qu'on devait enlever nos bas, on devait couvrir les cheveux, on devait mettre une blouse pour nos travaux. On ne le faisait pas. Mais grâce aux formations sur l'hygiène corporelle, je suis fière de pouvoir prendre la parole et pouvoir parler un peu ce que je connais là. Et grâce à eux, on sait que si tu veux travailler, d'abord il faut être en bonne santé.
In Ethiopia, the Nepad Spanish Fund has enabled live adders to provide business development skills, vocational life skills training, as well as assisting project participants in job placement or starting income generation activities. 250 beneficiaries were provided with training on a multitude of topics. 204 registered beneficiaries are attending vocational skill training at 7 training centers. 25 are on the way to start petty trade. Among the 158 that graduated, 102 of the beneficiaries are either working for an entity or have their own small business. In Niger, the fund is supporting SAFEM agency towards capacity building of 350 women artisans to generate income in the arts and crafts sector by improving their skills from production to marketing. SAFEM organized 18 exhibitions of handicraft missions. More than 20,000 women have been empowered by the Nepad Spanish Fund through the establishment of business networks with the development of a regional portal for women in business to share information and opportunities along the continent. The Graham Michelle Trust is establishing and strengthening national chapters of a Pan-African network of African businesswomen with an initial focus on countries in East and Southern Africa. Towards enhancing regional integration, the Nepad Spanish Fund is supporting women involved in informal cross-border trade. The fund supported the construction of a regional cross-border market in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Burundi, and Rwanda. Gas Mali is working a guarantee fund for women traders in the Frisch Road between Mali and Burkina Faso. In total, 1,390 people, including 1,110 women within 43 villages along the route of the fish, were sensitized. The Nepad Spanish Fund supported women business incubator projects to capacitate women entrepreneurs in the ECOWAS and COMESA regions. Working with the IEFP, a governmental institution in Cape Verde, the Nepad Spanish Fund promoted business incubators in the country towards supporting the capacity building and knowledge transfer, as well as vocational training for new female graduates entering the business arena.
Portanto, nós, resumidamente, nós podemos dizer que tivemos reforço institucional, não é? 26 técnicos capacitados e preparados.
From the project, 60 business plans in different areas of economic activity are ready for financing through resources from the Nepad Spanish Fund.
Poder bem mudar a minha vida, sim. Uma hora, como dizer, dali para frente, para levantar meu lugar, para mudar, para comprar novos equipamentos, para fazer publicidade, para atrair mais clientes, para ganhar mais nome sim na sociedade, como dizer. Vou criar uma empresa, vou ter publicidade. E para fazer publicidade, vou ter que ter meios para fazer. Então, eu quero equipar meu lugar para fazer publicidade, para expandir meu negócio. E eu estou esperando que meu ponto de referência é financiamento na casa.
Microcredit and access to finance constituted a major part of the fund disbursement, which has set up microcredit schemes in 15 countries. With support from the Nepad Spanish Fund, the Gambia Women's Finance Association has set up 12 microcredit schemes. Through the innovation of mobile banking system, 10,500 women are delivered microcredit services in the remotest areas at their doorstep, thus increasing financial inclusion among low-income women. The project has also provided financial support to a total of 5,248 women through a revolving credit loan scheme.
They have already approved your loan. It's $60,000.
Very good. And this was a quick one.
Yeah.
This one also is a fast thing because of the machine that they are using and introduced, which makes their business so very fast. Because before they're always doing it in writings, waiting for long. But now you just apply, then they just systemize it. When they systemize it, 1 or 2, 3 days, they call you for the loan.
The Nepad Spanish Fund supported several African countries in the areas of human rights and advocacy, gender disparities, access to health services for women, which are notably limited on the continent. The fund supported the reformulated project by Dimmel of the Fistula Hospital project in Niger in various structural and capacity building areas, including infrastructure development. The fund is providing institutional strengthening to women's organizations, NGOs, and government institutions that promote gender mainstreaming. In Cape Verde, the fund enabled the Institute of Cape Verde for Gender Equality and Equity, ICIEG, to implement the national plan to combat gender-based violence. A key outcome of the project was the capacity building and training to support police and health staff. 205 police, 15 health staff, and 52 from the justice sector were trained on how to assist victims of gender-based violence.
Acho que o impacto foi positivo, uma vez que após essa formação houve uma redução significativamente de violência baseada no género, registrado neste comando, tendo em conta que houve uma redução de 102 números, correspondente a 30,72% em relação ao ano passado no primeiro trimestre.
5,488 victims received assistance in Cape Verde in the framework of the implementation of the National Plan for Gender-Based Violence. The project supported the elaboration of the draft of law for gender-based violence, which has since been adopted.
Esta lei completamente diferente de tudo aquilo que se tinha visto, inclusivamente até aqui, em termos de produção legislativa.
The excitement that you found on the ground was not an excitement about transfer of resources. It was an excitement about the increase of capabilities. We have disseminated 500,000 seeds that will produce tens of millions of flowers. It is the capabilities of these women that will really transform the continent.
C'est bien, c'est bon, c'est même très bon, mais c'est pas arrivé. Nous allons encore demander à Nepad de nous pousser encore un peu.
The sun is rising, the people are smiling.